Mistakes that people make when buying matcha. If we have not met before, I'm Pat Tokuyama, creator of this YouTube channel, All Day Like a Shark. Subscribe if you want to see more Japanese and tea related videos like this one today. Mistake number 1, not checking the ingredients. Matcha should only contain matcha, powdered Japanese green tea, nothing else. Stay away from matcha mixes because it's likely you're overpaying for what you get. Additives not only dilute the matcha flavor, but they're also going to add bulk to the weight that you're paying for. You are paying for the weight, right? And it also might compromise some of the aroma and flavor that matcha is so well known for. Mistake number 2, assuming that all matcha is real matcha. Matcha grown in Japan will taste like Japanese matcha. If that's the flavor you want, please be mindful of the source. Unfortunately, there's no way to know if the matcha was actually grown and produced in Japan without checking the label, or knowing your supplier, of course. Green tea is produced all over the world, as you may know, and it's not that hard to process it into a powder. So if you're at all concerned about getting the real thing, make sure it's a product of Japan, at the very least. Here's an analogy. Champagne comes from Champagne, France. Every other type of wine made with champagne grapes is just sparkling wine, if it's not from Champagne, France. And maybe one day Japan will come up with a system similar to Europe's protected designation of origin to make it more clear. You might have seen DOP, that little symbol with a little gold border on some of your favorite extra virgin olive oil, if it's from Italy, for example. Mistake number 3 is not understanding which matcha is for baking and cooking versus drinking, at least as a traditional tea. So in Japan, there are really only 2 types of matcha that you're going to be finding in a shop. There's matcha, which is your typical drinking or ceremonial matcha, as they say outside of Japan. And there's also matcha ryoryo, which is matcha used for cooking or baking. Matcha, the non-cooking type, is intended to be enjoyed in a more traditional way, such as a hot or cold tea. Matcha sold for cooking is much more versatile. You can use it not only for foods, your favorite sweets like cheesecake, muffins, cookies, and even soba, but drinks like lattes, smoothies, and other fun stuff. As you may know, cooking matcha is also more affordable, often 1/5 the cost by weight. Therefore, you can use a lot more of it liberally. A little bit of matcha here and a little bit of matcha there. Matcha everywhere. For example, I love using it on sweets with my magical dusting wand, which you may have seen if you've watched any of my cooking videos where I decorate my cakes. It really is a magical dusting wand. It's one of my favorite tools for making powdered snow with powdered sugar, or you can also use it with matcha or even hojicha if you have hojicha powder, but that's another video. Like so many foods and drinks that we enjoy in life, there really is no objective scale or grade that standardizes matcha quality to provide clarity and transparency for the consumer. Just because matcha is described as ceremonial does not mean that it's high quality, and just because matcha is for cooking does not mean that it's low quality. Use your intuition or buy a handful of different types from different brands, suppliers to find out for yourself. You can quickly get an idea what you like by trying the extremes of the price spectrum, though I tend to stay away from those at the bottom end, but that's just me. And then you'll find out what's most important to you. In general, a more expensive matcha will exhibit certain characteristics as far as flavor, sweetness, bitterness, and umami goes, as well as mouthfeel, also known as body. Some people may value and enjoy these aspects of the matcha experience, while others won't care. So if you're in the latter group, something less expensive would probably be equally, if not more enjoyable for you. Last thing I wanted to mention is that matcha will taste different depending on the growing region, the processing, the climate, also known as the terroir. If you've read Real Food, Fake Food, you might have heard that term before. I'll link that in the description. And of course, the cultivars or different types of green tea that is used. Yes, different types of green tea exist, and they all have different characteristics that will affect the flavor. So now you know that ceremonial doesn't really mean much when there are many factors that affect the flavor. What will you do with this newfound knowledge? Well, regardless of your matcha drinking experience, having the opportunity to experience these differences is all part of the fun, isn't it? Anyways, mistake number 5 is the last mistake that people make, and that's buying matcha in bulk. Unless you're operating a cafe with a high volume, matcha should be bought in small quantities. Matcha is a delicate tea and needs tender loving and care. Really, it should absolutely be bought in small quantities even if you drink it regularly. The largest that I would recommend is 100 grams for cooking matcha and 40 to 50 grams for drinking matcha. These are the common sizes of packages that you'll find in Japan. Make sense? There's a reason for that. Matcha tastes best when it's fresh. How do you know that it's fresh? By checking the expiration date and using it before. So now that you're familiar with 5 mistakes people often make with buying matcha, you're ready to make a well-informed choice with your next order. If you want to get some of my favorite organic matcha from Japan, you've got a few options in the shop. Link in the description. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet for more Japanese-related videos related to cooking or tea. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and got some value out of it. Share it with somebody if you think they could too. And otherwise, I will see you next time. Jane, bye-bye. And bonus is, can you guess what 3 of the worst enemies of matcha are? Going to be 1, oxygen, 2, heat, 3, light. And how do you defend against them? Packaging.